Welcome to South Philly's Italian Market, where you find the freshest meat, seafood, and produce daily. Now let's go get some seafood. But this is why I love this place. I wish you guys could smell it in here. It is so nice and so good. I just love it here. The freshest, the best. All imported, different Italian cheese.
Love the Italian market.
Alright, bro. This is where I get all my produce. Alright.
Fish the tomatoes so that I can make my spaghetti sauce fresh. How about that? These tomatoes. I don't know. This is
like the frog.
Yeah, with those. I have $1.
And you have tomatoes?
And I have tomatoes. But I'm going to make my sauce fresh, so.
Gravy?
Oh, that's what you guys. That's right. I'm going to make my gravy.
No sauce. Oh my God, I'm tired
I'm
of
going to
that.
make my gravy.
I'm tired of hearing that.
I love it.
I'm tired of hearing that.
Okay, yes, we having gravy. Thank you, dear. Welcome to my kitchen. Hi, my name is Pam, and you're in the home of good eats and sweet treats. Today's menu, I will be making stuffed ricotta shells with shrimp gravy, with homemade shrimp gravy. First, we have our tomatoes that I bought at the market and cut the tops of them off and let them stew down real nice. Smash them up right in the pot because they've been simmering probably, I'd say, about an hour. And after they get mashed up in the pot, we actually are going to put our tomatoes in the blender so we can blend them up really nice after I finish mashing them. Okay, try to mash them as soft and fine as you can, because then we're going to put them in the blender and puree it so it can be a gravy. I call it sauce. They call it gravy. It's okay. It's all edible and very good. Put it to the blender. Pour it in as such. Still leaving this pot because we'll be using that. When you go to blend up anything that's warm, you always have to have the top out because it will explode. Just put it on I put it on a little bit because I'm afraid puree. And you let that puree. Now we're going to put the tomato gravy back into the pan so that we can season it up and make our sauce, our gravy. Okay. The Italians always call it gravy. I'm going to add about a half a cup of onions, fresh chopped onions. Okay. And here, I don't ever use a measuring spoon, but I will for you guys, because I really don't. I usually put about a teaspoon of pepper, salt, and my seasonings, and then I go up from there if I need more. But so we start off with a good teaspoon. now that was salt, and we're going to use a little oregano here, and some Italian seasoning, and a little garlic powder. I will be using fresh garlic too. Okay, all that goes in there nicely, and this has to cook kind of slow because you don't want anything cooking too fast because you want it to simmer nicely. And after we do this and let it simmer a little, now like I said, I'm a cook that tastes as I go because that's the only way you know if something needs more, and that is good. I cover it. Now you can let gravy simmer all day, literally 8 hours if you choose. But because we're going to be putting this in the oven as well after we stuff the shells, I usually don't do it all day because it's going to have extra cooking time. Now we'll take, I have already deveined the shrimp, but I bought them whole. These are wild shrimp. I bought them whole and shelled. So you take the shell off like this and pull the little tail, and that you can toss, or I use the shells for my fish stock, if I'm making a stew, or if I'm making chowder, I'll use those. Now to devein the shrimp, you just simply take a knife and cut it down the center, and then you rinse. Sometimes they're clean, sometimes they're not. Okay, now these are the shrimp that after this is cooked down some, I'm going to toss in, and they'll cook very slowly because I think if you cook them too fast they get too soft, and I just cook them slow and everything turns out right. I already cooked or boiled the shells that we will be using, but before I do the shells, we're going to take and cut up a few of the garlic and make my stuffing, stuffing for the shells, which is regatta cheese and garlic, parsley, and Italian seasoning and oregano. Okay? Cutting board to cut up my garlic here. You really don't have to cut up the garlic too fine, because that is like I'm putting it in the regatta cheese, so you smash garlic and it kind of like does what it's supposed to for you. And after you do that, then you can do your chopping of the garlic. And once I chop the garlic as such, then I'll get a bowl and I'll do the regatta cheese and all the seasonings for the regatta cheese, stuffing for the shells. But you try to do the garlic as fine as possible, because people don't want chunks of garlic. They would rather have if it's fine, you can even take a grater and mince it with the grater, because that really comes out fine. I'm used to chopping stuff, so that's what I use and do. Hands on. That's the kind of girl I am. Now I use 3 cloves. Of course, it depends on how much stuffing you're going to be making. But I use 3 cloves. And oops, I did not want you to see that. Okay. Here we go. We'll take this, and I think I use Probably need all of it, but not real sure. There's the garlic. And here we go again now. I'll just use a half a teaspoon of the regatta. I mean a half a teaspoon of the oregano and the Italian seasoning and garlic powder. You can as well use fresh. If you have it, that would be fine. I like dried, so it tastes just as good. Okay, stir that up really nicely as such. Oh. And my strainer. Sorry, Reggie. And here we go, we're straining our noodles. Okay. It's real easy after this. I'm taking my noodles out. The ones that broke I will not be using. I mean, you still can use them, but I'm just funny like that. Stuff these with the regatta cheese. After we stuff these with the regatta cheese, then we'll put them in the oven for about probably 45 minutes because everything is really already done. But it's really, really tasty. Okay. And you might want to put a little salt. I do not add a lot of salt when I'm cooking with cheese because it is already salty, so I just don't do it. But, you know, to each his own. Now I spoon them in. Spoon them all in. Fill them up with cheese. It looks like sometimes, depending on how much cheese you put in there, you might have to make another bowl of the cheese, which is nothing but garlic, oregano, Italian seasoning, and fresh garlic. That's it. And I didn't know I could do it, but they're very good, and I just tried it one day and came out so nice. Everybody loves them, and they're filling. It's a good meal to have if you're having guests over. Nice stuffed shells. We put these bad boys in the oven with the sauce. It is really, really good. Wash my hands a little here, and then we're gonna just pour that gravy over the stuffed shells. Throw it in the oven. And there's the gravy, and I have fresh, nice shrimp. This is so good. Okay. This is a meal that literally everything is cooked already, but you put it in the oven for probably, like I said, 45 minutes. You can sprinkle some whatever cheese you like on top, mozzarella, Parmesan, Romano, or even mix. I think I'll wait, cook this up a little, and then I can get our eggplant started. Eggplant, I'm just going to roast it, season it up, and put it in the oven. Have some of my gravy over it with a little cheese. It is delish. Okay, you see how I cut? I just peeled it. I'm going to take and slice it as such. You can slice it thicker if you like. I prefer it thinner, cooks faster, and that's just what I like, but just go by what you like. You always can make a recipe to tweak it to how your taste buds are. So after I do this, I will sprinkle with a little salt and a little pepper. And I say sprinkle because that's literally what I do. Now, because I have a couple layers of this, I'm gonna take these on the top, and then I'll just do the ones that were on the bottom again, so that everybody can get a little salt. And then I do my pepper. These people say that they don't have any taste, so that's why you do have to use your seasonings to get that taste. I use the garlic powder and put that on. I use it heavily. I love garlic. It all depends on how you like. But the oregano you're going to put on there. Again, you can use fresh or dried. I like the dried. A lot of people don't. A lot of people say it's not as, I guess, good a taste. They may be right. But me personally, I like the dried. And I always sprinkle my olive oil. Preferably extra virgin, but you can use whatever. Sprinkle that right onto your eggplant. Once you do that, I'll shake it up a little. That one we won't use. Shake it up so that the olive oil, goes over all of them. And I literally just stick this in the oven like this. It goes in the oven for about 15-20 minutes, and then you can take it out, put your sauce on top, which is the gravy that I have made. You can make whatever sauce you like, but I like this sauce. Some people also bread these. It's just extra fat to me, so I don't use any breadcrumbs. I just use them as they are. Put them in the oven. Again, like I said, 15-20 minutes. They should be done, but it all does depend on how thick you cut them. Okay, and now we have to wait for our meal to cook. After that is in the oven cooking for 20 minutes, you put that sauce on it, and then you can layer it with some mozzarella cheese. Put it back in the oven for 10 minutes, and it is on and popping. Now we are going to do our garlic bread. Again, I don't do my garlic bread in the oven, really. I start it on top of the stove. We are going to come over to the stove. I've already got the pan getting nice and simmered. And we're going to put some some olive oil to start in the bottom of the pan. And you want your pan to be a little warm, so that when you put the olive oil in there, you see it sizzling. Here it's simmering. You cut your bread, you slice it down the middle. As such, open wide. Oil, butter, this seasoning. You can put this right back on this pan. This is where we'll put it in the oven for about 10 minutes, and that's it. And you will have your nice toasted garlic bread that is so tasty. And when I tell you so tasty, you'll thank me for the recipe later. It's really nice. This is the finished product. My eggplant with the cheese and sauce, the shrimp and the stuffed shells with the regatta cheese. This is what you live for. So good. Thank you for joining me in my kitchen, a home of good eats and sweet treats. I'll see you next time.